Namo Adida Phat. Thanks so much for joining me for a daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This wonderful sound calls us back to our true home. The third mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by sexual misconduct, I vow to cultivate responsibility and learn ways to protect the safety and integrity of individuals, couples, families, and society. I'm determined not to engage in sexual relations without love and a long-term commitment. To preserve the happiness of myself and others, I'm determined to respect my commitments and the commitments of others. I will do everything in my power to protect children from sexual abuse and to prevent couples and families from being broken by sexual misconduct. For our Dharma lesson, we've been reading Abundant, Exalted, Immeasurable by Ajahn Pasanno, and we're continuing in Chapter 5, Questions and Answers. What happens to us as we die? As we die, there is a breakdown of the physical body, of the processes that sustain life, and on a certain level, of the mind itself. Not in the sense of we all fall apart and go bonkers, but there is the breakdown of what we conceive of as my mind and my thoughts. We prop that up through our whole life and identify with the thoughts, memories, and perceptions. That starts to unravel. If what you have done is spend your life identifying with thoughts, feelings, perceptions, and memories, then it's going to be confusing because it's just natural that these unravel. Reflections in the morning chanting include: the body is impermanent, feelings are impermanent, perceptions are impermanent, mental formations are impermanent, consciousness is impermanent, the body is not self, feelings are not self, perceptions are not self, mental formations are not self, consciousness is not self. These are extraordinarily important reflections to investigate and to take on board so that you're not identifying with and building your home in these impermanent, not self phenomena, as is the habit of human beings. Rebirth generally takes place fairly quickly. The Theravadan doctrine is that it's an instantaneous rebirth. Doctrinal positions were generated historically after the Buddha passed away. The various schools of Buddhism, such as the Theravadins, had particular positions that they took, and one of them was that this instantaneous rebirth. There is some scriptural basis for that, but I think one of the wonderful things about Theravadan scriptures is that they keep everything. As the name itself, the Way of the Elders, indicates, they tried to keep everything. They were the conservative element. So within the scriptures, you can also have things that contradict that. The antarabhava, the in-between becoming, is a state the Buddha talked about. There is also a discourse in which the Buddha compared the state to a fire being blown by the wind. The wind picks up the flame and pushes it somewhere else, which could be near or far away. The Buddha compared that to the desire, the degree of tanha and identification that impels the mind to rebirth. In general, I don't think it's as neat and tidy as the ancient Theravadins put it, instantaneous rebirth, or as neat and tidy as the Tibetans put it, at 49 days, or that it's like this, or this. I don't think anything is neat and tidy, but there are these processes by which rebirth is generated. Rebirth is generated by identification, attachment, state of mind, and the degree of clarity and calmness within the mind. That is why within Thai tradition, there is emphasis on people attending to a person who is dying, supporting them, making sure they're comfortable and feeling a sense of ease, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Trying to remind them by chanting, speaking to them, meditating around them, spreading loving kindness around the sickbed. These are very supportive ways of creating a wholesome mental state. It does have an effect when the mind is in a wholesome state and clear. It is clear. Those transitions are also a time of opportunity as well, or a very deep letting go. Right, I've heard this. I am of the nature to die. I've heard this before. The important thing is then being able to turn to relinquishment from a place of calm. It's possible. That is why the support is there and is culturally encouraged. In all cultures, there tends to be a washing of the body, a ritual both for the people who are alive and for the person who has died, so that they can make the transition with peace and relinquishment. This is important. There are also those who have built up unskillful habits over a lifetime. One of Ajahn Chah's former monks asked him about working with death and dying, and working with people like that to give them the opportunity for a wholesome rebirth. Ajahn Chah had his cane beside him and poked the former monk in the chest, knocked him over, pushed him on the ground and said, "Buddho, Buddho." Ajahn Chah was saying that the time of death can be painful and very difficult. And if somebody hasn't done the work beforehand, it's not that easy. So it's important to prepare throughout our lives. His Holiness the Dalai Lama was once asked what the basis of his spiritual practice was. And he said, "I practice dying." May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be at ease. Namo Adida Phat. Thanks so much for joining me today.